Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Dicing with Death.
Hello. So, Berserker. With
Yes.
Halvar shelved temporarily, this seems like a good time to have a little discussion about the class, the campaign, what
Mm-hmm.
worked, what didn't, any
Mm-hmm.
suggestions, maybe some spoilers. I don't know. We'll see. One little detail I thought we were going to get to today that we didn't is the bearskin.
Yes.
Which is like a level 5 class item that you can construct.
Mm-hmm.
So bearskin gives a chance to turn away blows, blunting ordinary weapons. And additionally, it gives you the ability to fight until you're at negative 10 HP. So I hadn't mechanized it, which is what I thought we were going to do today. But what I was thinking, instead of doing damage reduction, you would be making like defensive rolls against attacks. And if you fail, the attack goes through as normally. And if you succeed, you deflect the attack and damage the weapon. Exactly how this would be mechanized, we were going to playtest and didn't really get to. But
Okay.
that's fine. Maybe we'll do it another time, or maybe throw it in as an item in another campaign. Or any thoughts there, or thoughts on bearskin particularly?
So you said it's a chance to turn away blows, like a chance to mitigate all damage altogether. Wasn't that like just a straight buff?
My initial
AC?
thought was no. My initial thought was so the main feature is that it damages weapons that attack you,
right?
Blunts weapons. So if someone attacks you with a sword, you destroy the sword.
Got it.
But that's going to be a chance. So it'd be like you make an attack roll against attack rolls. If that makes sense.
Attack
like
roll against attack roll.
Or maybe it's got some bonus depending on your skill level or the quality of the bearskin or something like that.
Or maybe like a saving throw for the attacker to not have their weapon be...
Yeah, something along those lines. I guess it doesn't really matter exactly who's rolling it or what the roll is.
Okay.
I think having the PC roll it would be the way to do it.
That's usually more fun.
Just to make it more fun, but
yeah.
But yeah, basically it's free blocks, blocking with the bonus. So I think it'd be like you block every attack with a normal weapon.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I can get behind that.
And then maybe after that, if you succeed, there's a chance to destroy the weapon or something like that.
Yeah, it sounds like
I don't know.
I mean,
that's where I was going with that, but we didn't.
Yeah, it would make bludgeoning weapons have a more useful purpose, because I feel like slashing and piercing weapons get all the attention, and I feel like there should be a significant bonus for bludgeoning weapons. Like, I've always struggled to figure out how bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing all interplay in a D&D world, rather than just doing like damage types. And I feel like there's some interesting room for highlighting the effectiveness of one type of weapon over another. And this is an interesting way of doing it. I like the idea of people with multiple weapons having an advantage by being able to choose the damage type for the situation. But it's just, it rarely comes up.
Yeah, it's a hard balance to not make the system way too complicated.
Mm-hmm.
The Werejackal skin was absolutely better.
Yeah, Jackal skin was...
That was sort of a surprise magic thing. But, I mean, that was because from an Anthurion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so bearskin aside, because that was supposed to be a subject of today's episode that we didn't get to, maybe we'll zoom out and talk about the class in general. I'll go ahead and link the document in chat. If you're watching the VODs, I don't know, track it down. It's plenty. It's on the wiki. It's on the website. It's
this is the right necromancer. Yes, this is the right berserker link. Perfect. Okay.
There's just a Google Doc that we've been updating as we go.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I had the right document linked on the website.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
I don't know. Do you want to give any of your thoughts?
Well, the damage buff from the Berserker, the Frenzy, is super fun to play with, and I think that's why this class, like the Necromancer class and like the ones you were talking about in the secret pre-show, that only had an audience of one. It's a super character class by design, which is great and makes for a lot of like fun, epic role playing and adventuring. And the Frenzy is really nice on that. The deciding when you go into the Frenzy and spend the round doing it versus like using that round to be more effective is an interesting give and take, because you're always like, it's the nature of this class is it's for one player sort of against the world. I guess you could do it with other people. So that whole like, am I going to skip a round?
As long as everyone was OP and it didn't feel like,
Dude, you need a whole team of super characters, but it's possible. That whole like, do I skip this round in combat to gain all these benefits was an interesting idea, but the more I play, the more I feel like you should Frenzy every time no matter what. Because you get the extra bonus attack, so it feels like I'd like more of a reason to decide not to Frenzy. You know what I mean?
Well,
I'd like that to be more interesting.
So there's the cumulative con penalties, which never quite came up. It was usually the way adventuring works is you've got one big encounter per day, and then you just avoid encounters.
Yeah. What if it was like a willpower plus level every round to keep it going, rather than just like a flat buff?
That's initially it. I mean, in the first draft of it, I wonder if this is even still here. It was you make a will check to see if it keeps going. Remember, and then it got a little ridiculous because you couldn't end a Frenzy by choice. Right. It just, you had to roll a willpower check. Right. I still have, at the end of the Frenzy, the Berserker rolls a willpower check. If successful, it lasts another round. If it fails, it ends.
Right.
So you just keep frenzying until you fail a willpower check. And that was meant to be kind of a downside of a frenzy. And like you would wind up, if you're frenzied, accidentally attacking allies or attacking yourself. It just got a little cumbersome and weird. Like when like battle would be over and we'd be sitting there rolling willpower checks and twiddling our thumbs, and it narratively didn't feel right.
Right. But I do like I would like some more interplay on when to Frenzy. Maybe give like Frenzy some downsides as well. Like maybe
there are a few, maybe some AC penalties or something. I don't know.
Or maybe I don't know what my HP is. You track my HP for me.
I think there's a 2E. I think in one of the fighter handbooks or something, there's like a barbarian that does something like that. Where like you get a bunch of bonuses, but the DM takes control of your character and doesn't tell you your HP or something like that.
Yeah, one of those would be interesting.
Yeah, the only penalties right now are, there actually aren't many. Disadvantage on perception and intelligence.
Yeah.
And then the extra attacks cannot necessarily be controlled. You did a pretty good job of rolling with it. But the implication there is that if the DM doesn't like the player's decision when they're frenzied, you can choose to make those free attacks against whoever. Jumping back to the wound bonus rage damage thing for a second. That actually went through a couple of iterations throughout the campaign. And it was more OP than I thought. I mean, I know everyone told me it was OP, but I was comparing it to fighter specialization, because that's basically what it's replacing, right? Berserkers can't specialize, but they get this bonus damage instead. And I figured that it would just be an extra couple of damage, and even if that were on every attack, it wouldn't be much different than specialization.
But then when you get an HP wound, all of a sudden you're doing like 3 times damage on a regular attack.
Yeah. Which, it was pretty OP. So originally you were just getting that on every attack, whether you were frenzied or not. And then I made it frenzy only. And I also changed it from the total number of wounds to the maximum wound.
Right.
There's just an interesting suggestion in chat to cap the max bonus at your Berserker level.
That might work.
Which, which still like I mean Halvar is what, level 6, so still you'd have +6 to damage, but
but I wouldn't have had those crazy damage bonuses much earlier in the game. You know, I think that that level cap helps mitigate the early game OP, and then as you get into the late game stuff, then you don't have to worry about the cap as much. You know, because by the time you're level 6, you're rarely going to get wounds that are significantly more. I think the biggest wound I've ever had was like a 9-point wound. So
and I think I feel like fighters who are master, they can get mastery at level 5, and that's getting +3 to hit and +3 to damage. I feel like no bonus to hit and +6 to damage is pretty comparable, but it did wind up being it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it became very, I don't want to say glass cannony, but very swingy. Like
you miss or you just one-shot everything. Part of this was the campaign setup and the direction you chose to take it. So it basically means that you're just obliterating low-level enemies. Low, like 1-hit die, 2-hit die, 3-hit die creatures are just going down almost instantly. We didn't quite get there. I thought this class would be more interesting versus big, beefy foes. Like I wanted to pin Halvar against like a dragon or something and see how that would go. Because I think in that sort of fight, it would be cool that you're dealing a ton of damage, and the damage reduction would make the fight drag out rather than just having you slaughter one hit die goblins.
The goblins were fun and frustrating to fight at the same time. I enjoyed their caves and their holes and the transitions to this like weird discolored place. I keep wanting to call it like the Shadow Realm, but I don't want to cross campaign texts.
That's the same idea though. Do we want to talk about that campaign stuff now, or should we keep talking about the class?
Let's finish up the class and then we can do campaign.
Okay. Not sure what else there is to discuss.
But we never got involved with the superstitious category.
Yeah, that was just meant to be a weird little flavor thing. What note do I have? Superstitious. Berserkers are susceptible to curses, hexes, suggestions. Saving throws made at disadvantage.
That might be just an interesting thing. Like, what if Berserkers have disadvantage on mind-affecting spells, like charms and whatnots?
I think that's mostly what that is. I mean, you do. Except it does kind of conflict with how I've got the frenzy worded. So I think as frenzy's worded now, you probably got a bonus for it. Like you can't be.
Oh, when you're frenzied, you can't.
When you're frenzied, you're immune to fear.
Right.
And we also added in the advantage versus mind affecting spells while you're frenzied, but maybe while you're not frenzied, you don't. I don't know.
Yeah, I think some sort of like weakness to magic might make Berserkers better. I don't quite want to say like disadvantage on all saving throws against magical effects, because I think like against a fireball, a Berserker should be able to dodge it as well as anybody else. But there should be like
deliberately meant that open-ended. Yeah, that was in there. We didn't fight a whole lot. It didn't really come up, but it's there. And that also ties in with the oaths, right? Once you make an oath, you're bound to keep it. And that was an XP mechanic that we used. Yeah, so maybe there's more to that. I don't know that it needs to be. Do you think mechanically it needs to be more than just disadvantage?
I'm not sure what it should be. I think disadvantage is good, but I don't know how to classify the things that it should be against, because it shouldn't be.
That's why I deliberately left it open-ended, and I deliberately used terms that weren't necessarily D&D terms. Like, sure, suggestions are a thing, but hexes aren't really a thing in D&D. Shaman and witches aren't necessarily. It was meant to be like...
Not yet. Not until we get to the shaman and witch class that you've got.
So
thing.
So yeah, that's there as like a teaser and deliberately vague for DM and player interpretation. But two things: the vitality and the agility optional rules, I think, are I like the idea of generalizing those beyond the Berserker class, just to make a super character, where instead of level 1 HP, we gave you HP equal to your Constitution, and instead of AC 10 plus Dex mod, we just gave you AC equal to your Dex.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think just make characters more survivable, and especially more survivable at low levels.
Definitely. I think it's really appropriate for the Berserker because they put themselves in a lot of danger. Mm-hmm. And maybe this would be an interesting thing. When you frenzy, your AC equals your Dex, but when you're not frenzied, regular AC bonuses and penalties apply. Because I could see like a Berserker in the moment of things, like dodging and weaving in and out according to like instinct, which would be the Dex bonus, Dex for AC off the bat. But then when you're not frenzied, maybe not being that way. I don't know that a frenzy should make you more. I don't think it should make your defenses better. That's true.
But I don't know. And I kind of liked having variable AC. Like different characters with different dexterity having different AC, rather than just everyone having AC 10.
Mm-hmm.
It did get a little weird with, I didn't quite decide how to handle getting caught, like back attacks. I think I mostly gave you your dexterity AC for back attacks.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
There's some good stuff in here.
What did we think about the skins?
The skins were cool. I liked it. Normally in 2E you just get flat armor that doesn't do anything. So these like different abilities to play into it were fun to play with.
Yeah, I was partially inspired by the armor mechanics we used in Zweihar's campaign. I feel like having a little bit, and also the Necromancer's spirit armor, having a little bit of damage soak goes a long way to making single player characters survivable. It also like drags out combat a little more, which I think makes things interesting. Having combat where you're trading blows and it's not as swingy feels good.
Yeah.
I got a little frustrated. I needed to up the difficulty of the enemies, I think. But it was frustrating when like, okay, you're against these goblins who have these D6 weapons that are almost never dealing damage to you. Or if they are, they're just scratching you.
Because I was absorbing,
which was cool initially. When you had like 50 HP, it's just like these low-level monsters don't threaten you anymore, which maybe is fine.
Yeah, I think the damage soak is a fun concept that I would like to do more with. But it's exactly what you said. Like when we were playing with Zweihaar and you were walking around with chainmail, and then people are rolling like D8 damage against your 5 AC or 5 damage absorption. It
felt really good as a player.
Yeah, it does. There just needs to be some more...
Were you as frustrated with Zweihaar as I was with Halvar here?
I was, because I'd be fighting you with monsters, and I'm like, oh god, these monsters can't do anything. Like, this isn't even a real threat to him. Which is fine. The DM should suffer.
It's funny how the perspective... How did you feel from Halvar's perspective?
Man, I could use more armor absorption. This is great.
I know, Zweihaar had up to like 5 damage soak. There it changed versus weapon attack. The most you ever had was 2.
Right.
Yeah, Wolfskin, which you never got, gave you basically resistance to iron and fire, which would have made weapon metal type different, which I haven't fleshed out as much in my world. Right, if iron's common, having resistance to iron is great, maybe.
Right.
A lot of these are like based on mythology and stuff, so it wasn't necessarily mechanics inclined. So I sometimes struggled to like balance the different skins. But anyways. Yeah, so that's something we didn't quite get to work with.
But the skins were fun. Across the board.
We didn't see this feature, but silvered weapons do full damage through skins.
Ooh.
So that was meant to be an interesting, I don't know, werewolf throwback or something like that.
Yeah, because there was a lot of, like, it felt like the Berserker, especially with the Jackal skin, sort of had a lycanthrope feel to it. You know, you go into the frenzy and the hood would be down and you just become like a killing machine, making these attacks and getting these benefits. It had a very lycanthrope feel, which I enjoyed doing and playing through.
Yeah, I like that. And that was an intention of the class from the get-go. And Iron Skin, I may want to change the levels around, which you didn't get a high enough level of Iron Skin. The idea there would be strictly damage soak, and you would basically be collecting mismatched armor and stacking it for damage soak. You'd get disadvantage on a lot of your nature abilities, but it'd basically be like you count up your number of, like, you'd have X random armor pieces and each one would reduce your damage by 1. So that would be a way to get your damage soak up to 3, 4, 5, 6 if you've got a bunch of different pieces of armor. I hadn't really I hadn't really worked out the details of that, but that was the idea. And it wasn't necessarily, I don't know if it would be a main feature. It meant there would be enough disadvantages that unless you were like wanting to maximize your survivability and toe-to-toe combat, you may be better off just going with skins and being able to run and hunt and do other Berserker things. I think adding in extra weapon slots or something, dual wielding, basically like a ranger, is something I might want to do. Because I'm already giving out these free... I gave out a free proficiency to take like Berserker related skills. I think maybe giving out, or just specifically calling out using your weapon slots for things like ambidexterity might be nice.
Well, I also think that that's just like a natural byproduct of the Berserker class. When you're getting those damage bonuses on hit with the frenzy, the ideal way to optimize that is as many attacks as you can. Right, so 2-weapon fighting and ambidexterity are just like the good way to power play your class, you know? Yeah. Like it becomes the natural course to take, which is nice. I like when a build encourages you to go down a route without explicitly demanding it. And then if you want to be like the weird Berserker who just uses one weapon.
Well, there are all those bearskin guys that did shield and spear and had a fighting style built around that. But I think you're right. I think the way the rage damage works, having as many attacks as possible is the way to go. Chat's talking about crits, which I think would be fun. This was kind of, well, I guess the way the battle scars worked, crits mattered specifically for Berserkers. But yeah, what do we think about crit stuff we were playing with? What do we think about battle scars, that whole stuff?
Well, let's talk about the battle scars first, because they were great, but I think they were really overpowered, because by the end I had 19 charisma effective. And
which is kind of what we predicted, and like we predicted it breaking at a certain point, and I think we reached the point where it broke, where you just like, so I don't know how to I don't like capping things, because then it feels like the mechanic just stops working and then you get your level bonus on all of these things. But maybe that's the way, like you could cap your battle scar bonus at your level.
That might work, yeah. Or maybe it only applies in certain areas. Like the battle scars have to be visible, so you would have to be like intentionally shirtless or whatever. Or maybe they only work like when you're intimidating something. I'm not sure exactly.
That's basically
how.
I mean, it wasn't a direct bonus to your charisma. It was sort of a at your discretion bonus on charisma checks, which is what, like, I didn't give it to you for everything, but if you were like trying to intimidate someone or trying or trying to win people over, like you're this badass Berserker, they're more inclined to rally behind you or cower before you. Yeah, I like that. I like the idea behind it, but you're right. It got a little out of hand, and I'm not totally sure how to mechanize it. But I did like the idea of recording these battle scars.
It was a nice thing to record, just to like see the development of your character, even if there wasn't necessarily like a.
We used to do that kind of thing a lot, but never quite. You didn't use. Maybe this was just me as a kid being like, "Oh yeah, my character's like got a badass scar across XYZ."
I think we've just become old and jaded, Ryan. We've lost our passion.
Berserkers were actually very resilient versus crits, because I made it if you passed your saving throw, you shrugged off the critical.
Right, and if you fail, then you either take
And
damage or the table, which I really like that decision. Do you want the extra damage or do you want to roll on the table? Because the crit table is a fun thing to do, but if you do it all the time, it gets a little repetitive. And
it's also swingy, right? If you can spare the HP, it's probably better to take the HP.
Right.
Because like the crit table, most of the time it's nothing, but sometimes you're crippled.
Right.
Like sometimes you break your leg and your character is at half move.
So the choice between like damage or maybe nothing, maybe something even worse is a fun decision to make. I really, really enjoyed that aspect of this. That's something I might steal and bring into other campaigns.
Yeah. I meant to make extra crit tables, but never got to it. That was supposed to be part of this this campaign was supposed to motivate me to make new crit tables, and I just didn't do it.
If you were to apply the critical rules for PCs and NPCs, would it be the defender gets to choose or the attacker gets to choose? Which would be a more interesting decision to make?
Huh.
Because I kind of like it as the defender, but it might be interesting the other way? I don't know.
Or does the PC always choose?
The PC always chooses the most fun way to do it, but I feel like it should be more symmetrical.
Maybe.
It's fun choosing it as the defender, because then you really get to make some, like, I'm in a really shitty situation, how do I want it to play out? Which is always the fun mechanic.
Yeah.
Probably steal that from you.
By all means.
What else do we got?
So any more with the base chance? Someone's talking about the hard eating, which I can go into in a bit. That's not really part of the base class, but we can.
Mm-hmm. We also didn't really get into any of the alchemy stuff.
Yeah, you ignore. I meant that to be. So I initially instead of getting that free bonus skill proficiency, it was you get access to alchemy. But you kind of seemed inclined to ignoring it, so we just dropped it. It's kind of unrelated to the class. Basically, you can make healing poultices, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And you could use those to heal yourself. I expected you would embrace it and use that to manipulate your wounds. So, like, you can disinfect and apply poultices to manipulate which wounds are healing.
I see.
But we didn't exactly get there.
That'll have to be
the heart eating itself was... Sorry, go ahead.
That'll have to just be repurposed for another class somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of independent of this. They're also, like, sort of low-power magic-ish items that aren't quite... It's like... Yeah, it's not quite as powerful as dishing out a healing potion, but a healing poultice is still potentially useful.
Yeah.
We never did the narcotic. I kind of like... Actually, I think I gave you a bottle of whiskey that you never drank. I kind of liked that. I didn't decide what dye it would be, but you basically roll, like, you get temporary HP, and after some unknown amount of minutes, it expires and you take damage.
Ooh.
I thought that would be fun in combat. Quaff your bottle of whiskey, get a few temp HP. And then,
so you get X HP, and then when it leaves, you take X over 2 damage or something like that?
I don't know if each one... I didn't decide. I mean, it would be a roll of the die. So I don't know if it would be the same or if we'd roll a bunch. Be like, you snort some gnome dust, roll a d8. Okay, you gain 7 HP. You roll another... I think you would roll for each one. So it'd be like, you roll 3d8. So you get... Here, I can roll in chat just to get a simulation, right? So you gain 5 temp HP. In 2 minutes, you take 2 damage.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right, so and it's kind of swingy and random, but in an emergency situation...
It might be really helpful, or it might completely kill you.
Yeah.
Which is great. That's how products auto effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little... I think the minute duration... I don't know how to... I actually have I've got a times 10 in here. This was all just like brainstormy beta test. So it would actually be in 20 minutes, you take 2 damage.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a D8. It could be something else. But
yeah, the rolls, I see what you're talking about.
The heart eating was flying by the seat of my pants moment. So what I had here was this fairy feast, which we didn't get to. Like, I figured there would be more interaction with Fae stuff, and I would trick you into taking an apple from a fairy or eating at a fairy's table. And I think maybe you ate some elf's berries or something and took the first fairy feast that way. But the idea that it was an alchemical reagent, right? If you take food from a fairy, you make a saving throw. If you pass, you gain HP. If you fail, you swap max HP for temporary HP.
Which was interesting.
There'd probably be some narrative stuff on top of it, like losing track of time or falling asleep or...
Yeah, what's the way to replenish your max temp is my question.
So I threw it in there. I threw that mechanic in there. I mean, there's not, right? You don't take food from fairies, right? I mean, like, you might gain HP, but chances are, at least using this mechanic, you're gonna wind up with an insatiable hunger. You'll fill up your tank temporarily, but never quite be full again. I threw the mechanic in when you started eating people's hearts, and I was like, okay, this is some cursed shit. We're gonna use this. So it wasn't meant to be a balanced mechanic. It was a somewhat punishment, kind of interesting play on the vampirism, lycanthropy stuff to like give you this insatiable hunger for human hearts, which you played along with quite well. I hadn't totally decided how to replenish it. I think what we were going off on the end is you replenish it by feasting. So if you kill a human, eat their heart, you replenish your temp HP pool.
And then you also risk gaining a larger pool of temp HP by losing some max.
Yeah, something like that. And I don't know if it should be you cap off with every heart you eat, or if like we didn't totally flesh out those mechanics.
It would be interesting to have it replenish as you eat hearts, because then you could end up with a character who's like half regular HP, half temp HP. And so as you rest normally, you can only get so far, and you've got to like go eat the flesh of your enemies to get all of your HP back. But at the same time, like if you're in battle, like raiding and sacking a town and you're wounded, you can stop and like eat someone's heart to gain some temp HP back. If we had solidified the rules on that would have been something fun to play with.
Yeah.
At the end.
I felt like I was kind of intentionally making it mysterious, so you didn't quite understand what was going on.
The mystery was fun to play through.
I was also making it up as I went along. But...
Yeah, it was fun to go through the mystery of it once, and then I think it would also be fun to min-max that mechanic as well. Like a good game mechanic should surprise you the first time around, and you're like, "Ooh, that was fun and interesting," and then the second time you play through it, you really go for it. It's very XCOM-y.
Yeah, I mean, you can see in the document what the base was. The base was if you passed, you gain 1 HP. If you fail, you gain a temp HP and lose a max HP. Eventually, I was having you roll D8s.
Yeah.
And I think that's still what the mechanic was. It was if you eat a heart, you are forever cursed as a man-eater, and you roll a saving throw. If you pass, you gain D8 HP. If you fail, you gain D8 temp HP, but you lose that from your max pool. And then the benefit I was playing with was that you can refill that pool. Like, it's a permanent temp HP pool that you can refill at your own peril.
Right. Which is fun. That was good. Enjoyed playing through that.
Yeah, so the alchemy is kind of a standalone item list that can be ported to other campaigns as needed. Even the skins are kind of magic items that could be dropped into wherever they'd be appropriate, although probably not that appropriate unless you're a berserker that runs around and wearing the skin of a bear.
Okay.
Is there more here to discuss?
Let's see, what else do we have? We talked about the metals a little bit. We talked about silver dealing full damage.
Yeah, we never really got much into that, the metals. I kind of flip-flopped on. Yeah. As much as I like your metal system in Arcadia, but it's somewhat unrealistic. So I sort of waffled with myself on it.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like my description here is a simplified version of what you have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Somewhat unrealistic is maybe underselling it. Steel having a 5% better than bronze.
Hearing you talk about iron nuggets in the bog on Desperate Measures the other day made me cringe a little bit. But
you don't like the iron nuggets and bogs?
That's not where steel comes from. But sure.
Well, of course it's not. But there have been. I was drawing more from like people's are always pulling out like weird ancient artifacts from old peat bogs in the far north that have like a low oxygen content. Since it's not so much like iron nuggets, but it's like here's this old rusted sword and here's this like brick of armor, and that's kind of what I'm playing.
If you play that out, that's a cool way.
Yeah,
to
that's like
an old rusted sword.
So like in my mind, that's what is happening. But then like the rumors that get spread around to people who don't know anything are like, oh, it's just an iron nugget. And then if the players actually dig some shit out, it'll be like old rusted gear. So I'm giving them like a little bit of misinformation. But yeah.
Okay. Spoilers.
That's how I justify myself in the moment. I don't know if that was my intent ahead of time, but it's my intent now.
Yeah. We played a little bit with the different attack types. That's a system that I hadn't really fleshed out, but I kind of like the idea. I wanted to make combat more dynamic, where you've got like different choices and like weighing like is it better to do this type of attack? I wanted it to be more interplay between the attacker and the defender. So it was kind of like a game of rock, paper, scissors or something, or like depending on, but it basically wound up just being, okay, I'm always gonna slash for the bonus to hit.
Yeah, but I think that could actually be really fun, especially if you make it more flexible. Like you can take a bonus of X to your attack for a penalty of Y to the damage, or of X to the damage. Like you make it the same, and so that way at low levels, maybe I'm making these like really wild swings, and I'm getting like +4 on all my attacks, but I get -4 on all my damage. Like that could be a really interesting way to give some low level characters some high level characters some more options. One of the classic problems that we have is that you'll have a character who's like 8th or 9th level, and you're fighting some goblins, and you've got a lot of HP, but you can't necessarily like kill them all the time, or maybe you can't hit them all the time because you're only a rogue or whatever. And you might want to be able to, like, finding ways to get bonuses to hit is an interesting thing, especially in 2nd edition. And I think giving you more options to get bonuses to hit is cool, especially if there's a good counterpart to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it needs more work, but
certainly. But it's a good start. It's some good seeds to plant, especially when it comes to like you can only stab if you have a piercing weapon, and you can only slash if you have a slashing weapon, and so forth and so on. You know, like you could pull out your slashing weapons and take penalties to damage for bonuses to hit, or you could pull out your piercing weapons and get bonuses to damage at the cost of penalties to hit. Right? Those should have been opposite. Those
so I had, you didn't have any piercing weapons, but I had this pierce attack type with like, so if you're using a spear or something, you basically make a called shot to jam it between plates of armor and ignore their AC.
Yeah.
That was italicized. Only certain weapons would be able to do that. I wasn't exactly sure which ones it would be. Oh, and then the stab was a -2 to hit to ignore 4 AC on the defender. So if you're against a heavily armored opponent, you are better off making these semi-called shots.
Right.
And then what does it mean by +4 versus block? I think it's harder to block stabs or something like that. Okay, so the net would be a +2 versus a block or something like that. All right, so these are the kind of interplay. Like some of them would be better versus blocking. Yeah, I don't know. Seeds planted that didn't quite come to fruition, but we'll keep mulling them over. Someone in chat mentioned war paint mechanics, which I had never thought of, but I like that idea. I don't know what they do, but even just adding in like magic war paint seems like a cool thing.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind for a future campaign.
That'd be a cool way to do clerical spells for a shaman or something.
Ooh,
like you don't cast bless, you like paint someone's face, and for the next battle that they enter, they get the effect of a bless spell.
That's good.
And then you would get like your blessing effect, but it would also be visible from a distance before you engage. So like, because normally bless you would cast it right before the battle and no one really knows what's going on, just like the enemy cast a spell. But in this case, you could prep it well in advance, but then before the battle even starts, everyone would be like, they're all blessed. You can see the boar paint.
Yeah. I like that. There's yeah, I like alternate ways of casting traditional spells. I like that, like using Warpaint to bless. A teaser of what I have in mind for the shaman was using basically binding spirits and binding them to totems. So it would be instead of so not Warpaint, but along those lines, right? So let's see what I've got now. So like if you bind a fire spirit to a totem and you employ that in combat, it gives you and your allies within range +1 damage. If you bind a wood totem, that gives you 1 HP per round regeneration while it's employed. Blah, 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 blah. So I could easily see a class where you're binding, I don't know, we're imbuing magic into Warpaint and playing those. Cool stuff. Any more Berserker things we wanted to talk about?
Let's see. Went through
at least the class. I want to talk a little bit about the campaigns, maybe answer questions and do spoilers. And
I think we've covered all the Berserker stuff that I can think of.
Yeah,
seems solid.
So you brought up the Shadow Realm stuff.
Yeah.
So that was the initial, I don't know, premise for the campaign. And I had every time you died initially, you were switching sides. So like the first time you died, you were sent to the Underworld, the Feywild, the Shadow Realm, whatever you want to call it. And so you did die, and I went like chat was all screaming. I mean, it was kind of DM hacks. It was a way for me to keep the campaign going in an interesting narrative way. So I was like, yeah, you died. I think you died to a bear or something.
Died a few times.
You died a few times, but every time you died, you were flipping. So if you died in the real world, you went to the Shadow Realm. I don't know if you ever died in the Shadow Realm and went to the real world.
I think I usually found my way back beforehand.
Yeah, you die in the real world, get sent to the other side, and claw your way back. So that was the initial mechanic. Eventually, so now that Uncle has a Halvar's foot and he can clone you, I like that mechanic. I wish I had thought of that before. I would have had you. Did I mention? Was this off stream when we were?
That was off stream when we talked about.
That was off stream when we were talking about. Yeah, I liked the idea of you dying at this point and just waking up as a clone at Uncle's house. Just like in an RPG, you just keep respawning back at your save point or something like that. Although with the clone spell, which I didn't realize that you lose 1 con, or the clones have 1 less con than what they were cloned from, which is what I was doing. Every time you died, you lost a point of con, and you were sent to the other side. Anything we want to talk about on that aspect of the campaign?
I enjoyed it, but I don't have anything to really...
There's probably more mysteries there for future campaigns, maybe. I don't know how much of the secrets of the other side I want to reveal. I kind of figured you would have picked up more by now than you have, even as like a player, because Qualnir dabbled in this a little bit, and he also was just totally bewildered and confused, which maybe that's what I want.
Well,
but I think your characters have more power than you realize, and
it's possible. I might just be getting intimidated by the fact that I don't know what's going on. But I've enjoyed my forays over there because it's something I'm not... it's always something I'm not expecting and I'm not sure how to deal with, which is great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Any other campaign stuff where there's...
Let's see.
More spoilers I wanted to give. Oh, I guess I can... I don't know if Halvar's ever going to go back for your weapons, but... I can tell you where those wound up.
I was wondering if you were going to have that snakebite sword come back to me or not after it got stolen. Because I was pretty certain that it was was a cursed weapon.
Yeah.
You can't leave it. But then if someone takes it from you and someone else picks it up and equips it, are they now cursed? I wasn't sure how that was going to play out.
I wasn't actually sure how to think about it.
Yeah. And I don't know if that just means like they picked it up in its sheath and just didn't draw it, so they never got affected by the curse.
Yeah, I don't know what happens. I actually rolled for it on a table, and it's just the DMG sword +1 cursed with a little bit of flavor text added.
Right.
It doesn't actually specify what happens. I think once you've got the way it's written, it almost looks like you're stuck with it until you die. Like you can't steal it. I think it keeps going back to the possessor because you killed the elf who wielded it before you and stole it, which I think is how you get the curse.
Right.
And then I don't think you can get rid of it short of dying or remove curse spell.
Damn.
Yeah, the mind flayers are just mind flayers. I think totally by the books. The Goblin King, or whatever we want to call him, I used the stats for one of the demons. But it was kind of reskinned to suit, like the Bazatu or something like that. I don't remember which one. I think it was the green one. I clipped their wings. I might have nerfed the poison, but you passed your save anyways, so it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Your loot was or the uncle's staff, all the silvered weapons were totally right where you found your family axe. Well, you just you'd have had to go into the cabin and overcome an encounter there. And
but I was so low on HP at that point.
Yeah, maybe I'll save what I had planned inside the cabin in case you want to go back. But yeah, you were like way over. I think you just forgot about that event because I think you were at low HP and you were like, forget this, and you left and you abandoned stuff.
Yeah. Dicey.
Mm-hmm. Well, now's your chance to chat. If you have any Q&A questions to throw at us, now's the time. Do you have anything, Neal?
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's what I was about to say. Dicey.
I've been trying to read as we go, but...
I hope I didn't kill too many NPCs that you cared too much about.
It's
because Halvar did kind of go on a murder rampage.
NPCs I care less about than like ruining like I don't know.
You're what?
Ruining like the verisimilitude of the world. Just like if one berserker can run through and slaughter half the town, like where is nothing sacred?
Yeah.
Are these walls worthless? I don't know. I mean, it was fine.
Well, you know,
I think berserkers are a little OP. Like I kind of figured what happened to Solomon might happen there, and I feel like that's the usual protection from PCs overrunning towns is just the sheer numbers.
Yes,
because if you've got 100, even 100 0th level characters can probably take down a 20th level fighter. Half of them will die in the process, but they just overbear you, disarm you, bite you to death. And but with Halvar and his damage soak and his crazy attacks, took down like 40 civilians in that fight.
Yeah, and that seems sort of fair to me. Like a lot of in the real world, if people wanted to just be murder hobos, they could kill a fuck ton of people, which is something we see here in the United States. And so I think that there is like a real threat of someone coming in and just fucking up a town. And most of the time it doesn't happen because most people aren't evil bastards.
Yeah.
But that one time that an evil bastard does come along, they can do terrible, terrible damage.
Yeah. I liked that you got Berserkers banned from all towns. And that was kind of a story element I was considering from the get-go. Berserkers aren't allowed in town. And actually, all of those bearskin warriors never went inside town. We didn't really follow up on them enough. They were getting hired as mercenaries to escort the caravans, but they were also not allowed inside of town. I imagined that you were. So I talked about like possible leads or story leads for the campaign that you ignored. That was one. So I thought you might ally yourself with those bearskin warriors, have them show you the ropes. I think I even have a map somewhere with like their great hall. And
that had never even crossed my
mind.
Invite him
to join their mercenary guild, and they teach you how to make bearskins and blah blah blah. But you wound up just defeating them all in single combat.
Yeah, I thought they were a threat. I didn't even think about working with them. I tried to work with just about everybody else other than those guys.
Really? That's what I was joking. I can't even remember what was pre-show or what was in a break or what was live. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I meant by you were talking about slaughtering NPCs earlier. You always surprise me with who you decide to murder and who you decide to ally with. I don't even know. Yeah, those were meant as a potential ally or organization that you could join and ascend through and do missions for them. Who knows? Mm-hmm. I hadn't really thought where to go. So the bearskin was the lowest level of skin. So that was going to be like the first potential group. And then maybe there would be we'd figure out how their rivals, the wolfskin berserkers, do something differently, or who knows. But no, you just ignore that and murdered everybody.
Right. Halvar did turn into a bit of a murder psycho, but I mean, he was a berserker from the onset. I kind of thought he would be running around chopping people's heads off.
Yeah. And I liked that. I liked testing out those mechanics of the class, like putting you up against throngs of goblins and just watching you lay waste to your enemies. Mm-hmm. I never did get to test the berserker against a big, powerful, high HP monster. But
yeah.
Yep, I was open to exploring different skin mechanics. Displace or beast hide. I don't know what would happen. We do the same thing we did with the jackal skin, where we sort of brainstormed possibilities. Mm-hmm. The general trend is some amount of damage soak plus some sort of non-combat bonus based on the characteristics of the creature. Mm-hmm. So like wolves gave hunting, boars I think gave hiding, the jackal gave deception, and then because it was an Antherion, which are those were-jackals, it gave me that like bite attack, like transformation thing.
That was cool. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I like that too.
Everything that went down in the werebear's house was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah. There were those werewolves that we never tracked down, but it's fine. Yeah. You killed a bunch of them.
Are there any other questions in chat? Doesn't seem like it.
I don't think so.
Where did the accent go? Ugh, God, I'm really bad with voices, guys. I struggle to maintain them. I keep forgetting what they're supposed to be. That's why I don't really do voices with my NPCs, is I forget what their voices are supposed to be, and then it's a bitch to do, so I just stop doing voices. I should try harder.
Yeah. Halvar did kill a bunch of my named NPCs, didn't he? But then he retired, and so now I've got a Halvar.
Yep. He's there to kill players that come through. Well, is there anything else we want to talk about Halvar or the Berserker class, or anything that went down?
I think I'm good. Yeah, so Daryl was a druid, more or less, by the books. He was the one that Solomon set on fire. Mm-hmm. And I had that in my mind of him, I don't know.
That was the guy that I fought in the inn, right? He disappeared into the smoke, and I was calling bullshit that he should be taking fire damage, but you used like a fire walking spell?
Yeah.
Or something? Yeah.
He was a druid, so he had elemental fire spells, and he was transforming into Sasquatches and stuff. You eventually brought him down. Mm-hmm. That's one of those... He became a priest, whatever, after Solomon burned him alive, and he miraculously survived the flames.
That's one of those moments where it's you have to trust that your DM isn't just pulling out a bunch of bullshit, even though you're like, it feels like a bunch of bullshit, or I'm taking damage in the building and I know this guy's low and he's walking through the building.
I RNG'd a lot of it, actually. I rolled for his level. I think I gave him a D8 for his druid level, and he rolled a 7, which gave him access to all of the transformation stuff, which really changed things. And that also gave him like 3rd plus level spells, so he was able to protection from fire, blah, blah, blah. I thought that was a cool encounter.
It was. It definitely was. But it's one of those learning moments.
I was hoping, I wanted him to get away and keep him as an NPC. So because now I don't know what the hell to do with Wodenheim. Like you've kind of hollowed out all of the major NPCs. I don't know what. I think maybe the Knights of Solstice are gonna have to show up and.
Yes, maybe it's time for a new power to rise in Wodenheim.
Yeah.
A new orphan to come through and make it all better.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, shall we take a short?
Do you have a favorite battle from this? From this campaign?
I think my favorite battle would be the one in the Werebear's house.
Really?
Yeah, where there was the bed that had to be flipped over, and there were people hiding around, and it wasn't necessarily everyone's trying to kill everyone. There seemed to be a few different objectives happening with a few different
people.
No
one was quite sure who's on whose side. There was a lot of betrayal and
there's people.
I like when fights that could just be between fighters exchanging blows involve the inanimate objects.
Yeah.
The terrain. So like when you're like using the bed and tables and things like that, even if you don't have to. That's what I think 2E incentivizes that to you want to eke out little +1s here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So it encourages you to be like jumping on tables for high ground or like flipping over chairs and using them as cover and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which I think makes for more interesting combat.
Totally. I enjoyed it.
I think my favorite fight might have been that smoke and fire one. When Wodenheim was burning and Neal was calling GM hacks as I firewalk my way into the flames and
you gotta trust your GM, man.
Use the pyrotechnics to make all the smoke, transform into a crow to replenish HP, and then get axed.
Ryan and I've been playing this game for 20-something years now, and I'm still like, it's fucking hacks! The DM's out to get me, and clearly he's not. He's
I think my hacks are almost always in your favor.
But as a player, you sometimes feel like the DM is pulling bullshit, and you gotta learn to trust that your DM's not fucking you over. And oftentimes it feels like they are intentionally fucking you over, and it's just the way the dice go and the lack of perfect information, and you don't know the abilities of people. Let's just serve this as a reminder to everyone. When your DM says something and you're like, that's fucking bullshit, there's no way that should go down, you gotta think to yourself, there's probably a good reason that I'm just not aware of. Trust your DM.
And trust in the story, right? Like, I don't know. I still get salty over my characters, but trying to like focusing on the story over getting attached to any individual characters dying.
Yeah.
Can make it more.
Unless there's an eel coming for you.
That was bad for the story.
That was bad for everything. That was not a strong moment for me. It's all right. In honor of that, I made electric eel hounds for the Legend of Yaka and for Empires of Arcadia. I thought you were going to say
we finally got an eel emote. But...
No. Now I have electric eels that run around on land.
That are actually deadly. They aren't just little one-hit die eels.
Mm-hmm. Now it's real electric eel hounds that will, if they bite you, you are stunned until you pass a con check.
Yeah, I did watch the first Legend of Yaka.
Oh, did you?
I just had it on in the background or something.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else, or should we get ready to roll characters?
Are we rolling characters? Who's playing next?
Well, that's a good question. I have sort of an idea for a campaign, but I need to flesh it out a little bit more, so I'm not quite ready. That said, I'm a professional dungeon master. I can wing anything, anytime, anywhere. So, do you want to play, or do you want to keep DMing?
Either way, as an amateur dungeon master, I'm never ready and never prepared, so you know what to expect over here.
Semi-professional? You've made money off of t-shirt sales. Makes you semi-professional.
I don't even know if they paid for the t-shirts that I own, but
I know what you mean.
They certainly didn't pay for the investments in microphones and webcams and stuff. So I'm still squarely in the hobbyist section and do not need to file dungeon mastery on my tax returns. So still an amateur over here.
All right.
Let's see. Well, we can figure it out.
Yeah, why don't I roll a character then? Why don't we take a break? Okay. We'll come back. I'll roll up a character. I'm thinking like a wizard fighter or a thief wizard. And then we'll start a new character and everything on the other side of a break. See you guys then.
Bye-bye.